For me, home is complicated. The home that I grew up in was compromised to foreclosure on my 21st birthday. Both of my grandparents' homes we no longer have access to. What does it mean to have all of these memories but not be able to go to that space? A big tree with a tire swing that we kick against and rappel up to the branches, feeling invincible. Inside the tree, a family of raccoons. Amanda and I spend time in a neighbor's yard, on their stump, having picnics and enacting plays, always saying we did but never asking permission. We rake the leaves and hide quietly in the piles to scare our grandparents. When my grandmother passes, Paw bleaches her name into the driveway and stops taking pictures. We've talked about art at first being very just beautiful and idyllic, and then very aggressive and confrontational. I think we exist in this space in between right now. So much of our life is spent in gray space between different relationships or different milestones in our life. Every day can't be a great big thing. And so how do we navigate that gray space with grace, with pride, with humbleness, make an art out of how I navigate my life? I'm a very open person, but to the extent of it being open to the public is brand new. I think part of my healing process has been being able to talk about these things and navigate them with the people close around me, but I'm curious to see how people will react who don't know me or don't have this preconceived notion or kind of kindness already towards me and what they think of all of that.
We pretty much discuss a lot of the things, and she asked for my ideas, and just knowing that I feel like I'm a part of this show too, and sorry. Everyone needs to know where they're from and where their background is, and every family has their problems or disagreements and things like that, but still the good outweighs the bad.
Ma, who's this?
Amanda?
No way.
I think so. I think so.
Well, I'm the same age now that my mom was when she had me. And so instead of having these roles where you have to be my mother and you have to protect me through these things, I have such compassion and grace towards her now by being able to view all of these hundreds of items at a time. I see them as children and as newlyweds and the day that they bring home their firstborn. And not just how I remember them, but in these other moments. And that's been very good. It's helped our relationship a lot for us to see each other as adults who are navigating these things together. This is my paternal grandfather, Bill Stallings, photo book. And he took photos of everything and labeled all of this. So this is my grandmother's 31st birthday in 1963. When I was collecting all of this memorabilia and different things, not only just the photographs, but pieces of handwriting from my deceased relatives, items from home. And even though the room seems filled with all of this information, when I was going through and processing all of this, I was realizing and remembering so many things. I don't even think I've scratched like 10% of what I'm starting to be able to remember now. I think my family has gotten a little bit used to the fact that I am so open about things that have happened. But I think it's been with bated breath, some of the things they're like, are you gonna talk about that?
It's kind of scary, actually. Years back, I realized that Bree remembers things differently than me. Like, I remember things differently from other people at the time. So her truth and what she sees are different from the way I remember things. Not always, but you know, certain little things, and there's some ugly things in my past which she's not afraid to talk about, which I have kind of kept hidden just because of embarrassment or whatever reason. But later on, I'm seeing some of the scars she might have were because of me. I'm thankful that it's coming back and helping me in that way to grow myself.
My room from ages 3 to 20. A window I spent most of my childhood looking out of, watching my daddy drive away, watching the first snow of the season, watching the peach trees blossom, and watching the squirrels get fat off their succulents. Inside my closet door, directions to a time capsule. 11.5 paces from the back step, a moment of time buried where I thought J4 magazine clippings, journal entries, and pens with the planes my dad unloaded would mean anything to anyone else but me. So when you walk into the space, you'll be greeted by a large projection on the floor of different facts. Like 2 to 3% of all children who are born under infidelity, because I have a half-brother that came about through that way. And other facts like that. I wanted people to see that maybe out of the people in this room, other people have had that same experience. The viewing stations are going to be multi-sensory. There's a live fish in one, an open can of potato sticks, which has a smell. Those represent the different places that I've lived, which include both of my grandparents' house, the house I grew up in, and the house I live now by myself for the first time. There are 5 windows that represent the family tree. You'll be able to have a sight line through the windows to see through my grandparents to my dad to me, through my grandparents to my mom to me. There are 3 larger-than-life self-portrait panels, and those represent the different ways I feel about my body, which is one of the homes in which I live. I think for those who think of art in this classical sense of an exchange for a product that can live on their wall and maybe match the curtains, I'm going to challenge them to think a little bit differently about this. I believe that all art is self-portrait, and I also believe that all art is conversational in its nature.
Can you hear me? Yeah. Cool. Hold on, let me put down all my flowers. When I was sending out invitations to the exhibition, I was caught off guard by a comment from an acquaintance of mine in the art field. She said, "Isn't the theme of this show really self-centered, or even worse, she used the word selfish?" It has continued to wash over me with waves of doubt and insecurity, and maybe so. Maybe it is selfish, but in a world that demands so much.
We're not going to be the only people in the room with any of these things happening. We're not going to be the only ones in the room that have had family members in prison, or the only people who have lived below the poverty line. And I think that that's encouraging. I like to think that we're only as sick as our secrets. And hopefully we can air some of those things out and find connection.
But in a world that demands so much of our time, attention, energy, and compassion, looking within to heal generational pain is something that I take very seriously. I hope everyone takes the time to look back at their lineage and find a path to clarity and even celebration, and yes, maybe even be selfish. Without further ado,
I have lived alone for 7 months now, for the first time ever. My dog is small but has a big bark. 2 things are startling: not having to rush when in the bathroom, no one waiting outside the door for the flush, and my own naked body, just existing and not hurrying to cover it or hurrying to perform for anyone.